Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&As, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. Coach, do you have any movements you'd recommend doing every day on rest days for either bringing up weak points or just for general health for that given body part? Examples would be bicep, tricep band work, face pulls, ab work, etc. I hope that makes sense. Thank you. Usually the only stuff that I recommend people do is going to be restoration type work, and particularly for weak areas or weak points. Reverse hyper, again, one of the things I push all the time. You can do it on your off days for very, very high reps. And that's the other thing I'm going to point out. Anything that we're doing outside of our normal training should be over 20 reps, right? It needs to be higher rep stuff. Again, we can hit weak points. We can hit areas that we need extra restoration work in. I personally, these days, as of right now, I do press downs with bands every day, or almost every day. I've been doing band pull-aparts for my rear delts. Why? Because these are areas for me that are potential weak links, either in my mobility. The rear delts do affect my overhead mobility relative to my front delts, and I have to keep growing my front delts. Triceps weakest link in my bench, plus the extra work there helps build tendons. And it will possibly give some hypertrophy. But the thing to remember, there's a lot of debate as to whether ultra high rep stuff is actually real hypertrophy or not. I do want people to understand that that is a point of contention and debate even on the studies that have looked at that, like the MRI studies, and that's too much for me to cover here. But I think in any event, it still can facilitate better recovery and anabolic activity in those areas that will get carryover from your heavier work. Plus, again, the tendon health aspect of doing really high rep band work. But this could be for whatever area that you need. If your quad tendons are a problem, you could do high rep band extensions, leg extensions with bands for your quads. You could do the same thing for hamstring curls. Right? If you have an area that needs that. Now, I do not recommend abs every day. I know a lot of people, they do recommend that. I don't think abs are different than other muscles. I don't think they need more total volume. I would not recommend, as a general rule, this is me personally, more than about 10 total work sets for your abs every week outside of your big lifts. I personally do about 5 to 6, and I do them on off days. Although sometimes I'll do them after the end. Some of them I'll do them after the end of an upper workout if I did lower the day before. But I don't want to ever do too much ab work and then have to squat heavy or deadlift heavy for a max effort day. That's kind of a no-no for me. I never do them the day before. But it's usually the end of those are off days. I do 5 or 6 sets a week. I wouldn't go over 10. I don't think we need the extra work there. Again, we're just trying to hypertrophy them to get them stronger, right? So it's the idea. So with any of these things, I think really high band work can be done for any area that you have that needs the extra work, both from a recovery perspective and a connective tissue perspective. Because oftentimes weak tendons limit our growth in a muscle also. It's one of the reasons we have a lagging muscle and it needs to be fixed. All right, next question. I've seen this Cambered bench bar at some gyms. It's a lot cheaper than a Buffalo bar. Could use the same way if you got a lot deeper for rotating variations on bench. Any value to using a bar like this on rows also for a little bit of range of motion? Actually, you've seen that exact bar, that exact brand sitting right there in my rack. I own that. I own that bar, and yes, I got it off Amazon. So I have that bar. Bit of advice here. As far as the bench goes, it's also called a McDonald bar. It's called a Cambered bench bar or a McDonald bar. Yes, it will put a much deeper stretch on your pecs. It is dramatically more aggressive than the Buffalo bar. Okay? It doesn't just add 2 or 3 inches. It's a lot. What you're going to find with this bar, unless you have a very thick rib cage and a good arch and big pecs, it's going to be too much for most lifters. It's going to be too deep. You're going to want to get some bench blocks. Or if you have a partner who can do board work, you can do board work. But like the bench blocks that I have both of them. You can attach them to it to change that range of motion to get it down to whatever you need it to be. But as it stands in its raw form, it's probably going to be too much. And for you, I might be wrong. It might not be. The stretch is absurd. You may not even be able to touch your chest. depending upon your structure. So that's to factor in. I like it for chest supported rows because, again, that notch lets you get more range of motion instead of hitting the bench or whatever you're using. Okay, I like it for those. For standing rows, maybe, but again, we come back to that point of, or do you even have the mobility to get a deeper range of motion, right? You may not even have the shoulder mobility to get extra range of motion when going to this bar. Now, if you do, you could, and it might give a little bit better, say, mid-trap activation and stuff because of that tighter pull up there, right? It might. You could try it out. I've tended to use it for chest supported rows though, and I think it works very well for that. And I could see it potentially for like a really wide grip snatch grip Pendlay row or something too. Again, depending upon how you're built. It's also phenomenal for deep deficit deadlifts. That's one of the other big uses, a big use of it, and I've demonstrated that before on camera. So yeah, I mean, if you want to give it a try, but no, it is more aggressive than the Buffalo bar. Do not get it for that purpose unless you buy bench blocks to go with it, or at least a smaller set. All right, next question and last question of the week. 300 pounds standing press possible as a natty without getting fat. I'm 5'10", smaller frame, not super small, 19 guy. Legitimate question, if it's possible. How would someone best achieve this? I want to reach the Big 5 strength standards and surpass them by 100 pounds on each exercise. Okay, this is the one you're not going to pass by 100 pounds. A 5'10", drug-free guy who is not fat. If you get past 200, you have done amazingly well. Okay, 200 would be a great number to aim for. 225. Now, someone's going to say, well, I know plenty of guys who aren't fat who do more than that. Yeah, how much stuff are they on, though? I know guys who do 250 and 260 also. None of them are natty. And none of them are 200 pounds. Right? You start getting to the 200 plus pound range, pressing more than your body weight gets real hard. That is very rare. It's pretty rare among guys who use stuff. Guys over 200 pounds who press more than they weigh on gear are rare. There's not that many of them who can strict press more than their body weight. So just putting that out there. But you get over to the whole without getting fat. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, at 5'10", completely natural, I hate that term. Let's call it drug-free. You're not going to press 300 pounds without getting fat. It's not going to happen. Right? It's not going to happen. All the naturals I've ever met who hit presses like that are usually over 300 pounds. They're 300 plus pounds usually. Everyone that I know of personally. So, what's a better goal? 225. 225, because if you don't want to get too fat at 5'10", you're probably going to be 200, maybe up to 220 tops. You get to 225, that's a very, very good lifetime goal. It's a very good goal. And I'm just trying to keep people reasonable. I don't want to hold people back, but I mean, I'm just telling you honestly, anything beyond that is exceptionally rare, even among people who train the press very, very, very hard. Right? All right, guys. Well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.